Good morning, everybody. I'm Ron. Welcome to Ronaldism, and today we're going to take a look at breaking points. We're going to see what they're talking about. Today we have Hillary Clinton talking about two-time loser Michigan, two-time Michigan loser Hillary gives advice to Abdul Syed. Yeah, Hillary lost Michigan two times, and now she's talking about how Abdul Syed probably should be more conservative and less liberal, less socialist. So let's listen to what they have to say, and then we'll have a.
So, in the wake of his victory in the Democratic primary in Michigan, Hillary Clinton has emerged to give Abdul El Sayed some advice about how to win the state. Let's take a listen.
You're not going to convince Republican voters in Michigan, and the real fight will be how.
Okay, so Hillary is telling Abdul Syed that what he needs to do to win Michigan is to convince Republicans to vote for him. Last time I checked, elections in a democracy were 50% plus one. And we have various people, various coalitions in the United States that are grouped into two sort of coalitional parties, Democrats and Republicans. And the Republicans are arch conservatives, fascists, religious fundamentalists, evangelical Christians, and liberals, corporate liberals. The Democratic Party is supposed to be the party of the left. That's the party of also liberals and social democrats and democratic socialists, Marxian and or not Marxian. Hillary is a liberal. She's a classical liberal in that she likes capitalism. She likes the ability of people to go out and build businesses and make lots of money and profit. And she, like lots of the corporate establishment Democrats, thinks that what we need to do to win elections is to get all the liberals together, including the conservative liberals. The liberals, we need to pull all the liberals out of the Republican Party. And the way to do that is to tell all these liberals that we're not socialists, that we don't want to raise your taxes at all. We don't want to do any of this socialism. Now, this is a caricature of Hillary. She actually did advocate for improving the medical system, providing some government support for Medicare. She had a plan back in the early 90s that didn't go anywhere. But let's continue. Let's let her have her say.
Oh, how do we make sure that people who voted for Haley feel comfortable voting for Abdul El Sayed? And how do we get independents to feel comfortable? And you can see that it's not just about Michigan, but the Republican messaging is communist, socialist. It's going to.
So communism and socialism are very different things. There are challenges with communism. I mean, there's a lot of challenges with communism, especially the challenges are with not the utopian goal of communism. You may or may not agree with that. There's never been an actual communist state. Marxism has a lot of problems. The biggest problem that I can see with Marxism is that it relies on Adam Smith's conception of the labor theory of value, which is not correct. We can get into that. And based upon the labor theory of value, the Marxian socialist says that capitalism will collapse because there will be a falling rate of profit, because as capitalists automate more and more things, produce more and more things with less and less labor, there'll be, since labor is the source of profit, there won't be any more surplus profit. Capitalism will collapse because of that. That's clearly wrong. That didn't happen. So the whole Marxian turn that socialism took, in my opinion, was a wrong turn. But liberalism that developed out of the hundreds after the kind of the advent of the Industrial Revolution and the Liberal Revolution that took power from the monarchists and conservatives and implemented capitalism, there are problems that capitalism has. It has monopolization. It has sort of immiseration of the working class, even though, people can create businesses. There are challenges that social democratic movements around the world and in the United States have addressed. Think FDR, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Progressives, including Abdul Sayed, want to extend the protections of social democracy, democratic socialism to the working class, to everyone. And that is where the Democrats ought to be. It ought to be a coalition of liberals, social democrats, and democratic socialists. Democratic socialists think that, well, yes, maybe this revolution might not come, maybe capitalism won't collapse, but what we need to do is we need to work towards socialism by implementing social policies that sort of mitigate the problems with capitalism in the short run, and maybe the social revolution will come or maybe it won't come. Social democrats think that, well, no, that's not going to happen. We just need to work to provide the things that people need to have a good life. Abdul is not a socialist. He says he's not a socialist. He says he's a capitalist. I think what he means by that is that he is a liberal who agrees with social democrats that we need social policies like protection from, corporate overreach, getting rid of the corruption that the Democrat and Republican parties all participate in. And we need Medicare for all because the private sector is not providing adequate medical care in a universal fashion. The liberal revolution that allows people to build businesses, to trade, to make money, to make profit, there's value in that. There's innovation that happens with that. There are things that get produced because of that. It also tends, without regulation, to monopolization. It also, tends to result in a large degree of wealth concentration. The Democrats should be fighting against that. Instead, what they continue to do is say Republican conservatives will not vote for Democrat liberals if they think that Democrat liberals are socialist, or even if they're social democrats. So we want to tell Republicans that we are not in coalition with these social democrats and democratic socialists. And somehow we're going to trick them into voting for us by saying, we're not going to do any of those things that you're afraid of. We agree with you, Republicans. We agree with you that we want a liberal capitalist society with very little support for the people. Yes, we want to say that we want means-tested support for the very poor so that they're not absolutely destitute. But otherwise, we are a completely centrist, liberal capitalist party that is not going to do anything for the people. We're not going to have increased Social Security. We're not going to have taxation that can address the wealth inequality. We're not going to give Medicare for all to anybody. We're just going to be straight up liberal, and you should vote for us. The problem with that is that Republicans are not going to believe that. They think that the Democrats are at least in coalition with social democrats. They will say, you're communists. They will say, you're democratic socialist. Aha, you're socialist. And one of the reasons they're going to say that is that you just gave them that talking point. You just said, oh, well, they're talking about socialism. Let's see. Republicans messaging communist socialism. What did she say again? What are you saying, Hillary?
Republican messaging is communist, socialist. It's
Yeah.
going to be a very effective attack.
Okay. So the Republicans are going to have a very effective attack calling Democrats communists and socialists. So they're going to say that. And you say it's very effective because there are a lot of people that are in the Democratic coalition who are Democratic socialists, who are social democrats, who are liberals who think that we need a robust state response to the problems that capitalism, whatever its virtues, brings. And you think that if we just say we don't have any socialists in our coalition, or we say that we are going to keep these socialists out of our coalitions, we're not going to give any of the whole coalition that we have, the half of our coalition that really wants someone to address the problems of capitalism, we're going to tell them, no, we're not going to do anything like that. We're not going to do anything like that. And then the Republicans, liberals who might be Republicans, are going to vote for Democrats. That's your strategy. Okay, let's have her make her case.
And so people on the left have to be prepared to answer that and to be effective at answering it.
Yeah, answer that by saying, yeah, it's okay to be a capitalist. Some of our coalition doesn't think that's okay. Some of our coalition thinks that there's a socialist revolution coming with the collapse of communism, or communism, capitalism, start with C, with the collapse of capitalism. But the Democratic Socialists explicitly say that the collapse of capitalism is not inevitable, like Marx said. Social Democrats explicitly reject the Marxian conception of historical materialism and the idea that there's going to be a collapse of capitalism. Both of these parties are just working to mitigate the horrible effects of capitalism, the bad effects of capitalism. Doesn't mean capitalism is completely bad. A lot of them would say that, but it means that we're looking to create a mixed society very similar to the mixed society that we had under FDR. And that's the answer. We're looking to actually help people to achieve prosperity and also have the liberty to create businesses, but they should not be subject to private equity monopolizing industries, private equity monopolizing the veterinary business, owning 50% of all vets and charging whatever they want, immiserating the working staff there, and also giving horrible experience to people who just want to get their pets some health care. And because they can't get the health care for the pets that they need, they have to put their pets down. And private capital is pulling all the profits out of that because they're manipulating the liberal order, and they're creating monopolies. Capitalism will tend to monopoly. I remember being a conservative thinking that anti-monopoly was a part of that conservative platform. Social Democrats and Democratic Socialists want that. Liberals don't seem to want that. Where is your program, Hillary Clinton, for combating the corporate takeover of both the Republican and Democratic Party that people see and people do not like? People understand that the gross levels of wealth inequality are because we have a captured political system captured by corporate interests that use their vast wealth to buy propaganda, as they have done in the Abdul Sayed race. They spent $60 million to advertise to people who watch television programs and get television commercials And those people who watched those television commercials that smeared Abdul Sayed, they voted against him. So you're just telling them that, yeah, that's what we want. We want a corrupt corporate system that anybody can buy elections, and we want what? Socialist people to not be socialist. We want social democrats to not be social democrats. We don't want them to say what they want. We don't want them to think what they want. At the end of the day, we need to get 50% plus one. And there are 50% plus one in the coalition of social democrats, democratic socialists, and liberals. And telling 2/3 of the coalition that they're not going to get what they want, we are not the party for you, I don't think is the right way to win elections. But let's give her a little bit more, rope.
Do you think communist is an effective attack in 2026?
Well, all I know is that's the attack that Trump is leading with. And I assume they've tested it. And I assume that they have reason to believe that it's effective, or they wouldn't be beating the drum on it, because now it's not just him. Vance has done it. Others are doing it. They are trying.
That's a lot of assumptions. Do you know anything? Do you know anything? Or are you just assuming things? You're assuming that because that is what you have, that has been your position for 20 years. We are going to be conservative liberals. We are afraid that if we do anything, if we tell the people that we're going to give them anything that they actually want and need to thrive and prosper in this society, if we're going to actually address any of the problems that our society is doing right now, if we say anything that might give any rich person heartburn that their taxes might get raised, the Republicans will call us communist. So we're not going to do anything that our coalition wants us to do so that the opposition doesn't call us communist. They called Joseph Robinette Biden a communist. Joseph, I'll cut Medicare. I'll cut Social Security. I'm a deficit hawk. Biden. They called him a communist, and they believe it.
Trying to, bring back scare tactics about our candidates. And, it didn't work in New York. Mamdani was elected, and there was a lot of money spent
Mamdani
against him. When you have an effective candidate on the left, it still is going to be a close race.
I love
when you have an effective candidate on the left. Effective meaning not Abdul Sayed, who's created an excellent campaign and has motivated hundreds of thousands of people to door knock for him. What is effective for you, Hillary? What does Crystal have to say about it?
Sagar, even the concept of asking Hillary Clinton, who very, very, very famously lost Michigan twice.
Yeah, literally.
Once in a shock upset to Bernie Sanders in the
Two
primary,
shock upsets.
and then a shock upset to Donald Trump in the general election. What the best course of action is to win in the state of Michigan.
I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. The only Democrat since, 1988? So, no, I'm thinking Wisconsin. I might have been longer than that when somebody who had won Michigan. I'm like, what is going to lose Michigan, which was considered
the blue wall.
If you're young and you weren't there, that was the most. Everyone knew, Pennsylvania's always kind of been.
Yeah, I mean, they're laughing at it because it's ridiculous. But this is the establishment accepted wisdom that you socialists, you democratic socialists, you social democrats, you liberal Democrats who want to actually provide material benefits for people, Medicare for all, to address the horrible crisis of medical care and the gouging that we're receiving from pharmacy benefit managers and these hospital consolidation, hyper consolidation of multiple industries throughout our society. You people who care about that, no, don't say anything about that. Don't do anything about that. And Republicans will vote for us. Republicans will not vote for us. Republicans will not vote for Democrats. They think you're horrible. Democrats think you're horrible too. Everyone thinks you're horrible because you're horrible. And you think that I need a centrist. A centrist is Haley Stevens, who said, I'm going to fight for Michigan. I'm going to be your voice. Saying what exactly? I'm not going to do Medicare for all. I'm not going to do anything for you. I'm a centrist. I'm a liberal, I guess, uncommunicated what that means. And also, I'm not going to, meaningfully address the genocide that's going on in Gaza. I know that's a fraught topic for many of my Zionist friends who, conflate Judaism and Israel and think that any criticism of Israel, any criticism of Zionism is really just secret anti-Semitism. Theoretically, they would say it's possible to be anti-Zionist, but not anti-Semitic, but they've never met one, right? Anybody who's anti-Israel, they're happy to smear as anti-Zionist because they see Israel as necessary to protect the Jewish people. I don't have any, hate for those people. I have love for Zionist people and anti-Zionist people. People are trying to do what they think is best for themselves and their communities. But we need to focus on achieving peace and living in peace. I know a lot of people think it's impossible. It's impossible to live in peace. They just want to kill us. Okay? We can talk about that separately. But that's, the Democratic Party and the Democratic left want that addressed. They see a genocide. They see October 7th happen. It was really horrible. It's understandable that the Israelis want to get, vengeance on these people. But most people think that they've gone too far and they're committing a genocide. They are doing ethnic cleansing, and ethnic cleansing is a form of genocide. And so they want it to stop, and they don't want us to support it. And they want the Democratic Party, to be clear on that. So, the establishment of the Democratic Party is like totally unclear. They're happy to conflate Judaism and Zionism. They want to be pro-Israel as they have been in the past. They're having trouble reconciling the fact that, people want a different approach to Israel and the Middle East in general. But going back to this whole, liberal punching left and saying, we can't say we're communists. Stop saying communists. See, that's what they'll say. They'll say you're communists. Let's say we're communists. I'm not a communist. I'm not even a socialist. I'm possibly a social democrat. But we can talk about my philosophy. I'd really like to go into the whole, foundation of my political philosophy over time. But I can tell you, it's not a unfettered neoliberal capitalist approach, because that will be the nirvana of most efficiency, and that anybody who kind of loses in that system is just, out of luck. And the Democratic Party's approach of, well, we're just going to address the worst parts of it by giving the poorest people some small bit of help, but only insofar as we won't be called communist or socialist by the Republican. That ship has sailed. The Democratic base is no longer on board with that approach. They want meaningful change. They want meaningful social democracy similar to the capitalist, liberal, social democratic parties of the Nordic and many European countries. It's not radicalism. It's not socialism. It's a mixed economy, and it is the centrist way. Not what Hillary is advocating for is capitulating to neoliberal framing and to conservatives because, well, I don't think Republicans are going to vote for us if we don't push back on socialists. Republicans are not going to vote for Democrats because Republicans are Republicans. They've chosen their party. They're not going to cross over. There's actually very little crossover. And when you say independents, if you look at what independents want Medicare for all. Independents do not want a war in Iran. Independents do not like genocide. So you're just delusional, Hillary. Let's give Sagar another chance to complete his thoughts.
The blue wall, famously, Pennsylvania was always a toss-up, always
yeah.
has been, like in my lifetime. But Wisconsin and Michigan, especially Michigan, which I believe Trump only won by like 10,000 votes in 2016. That was the shock of all shocks on election night. And so, yeah, I remember when she lost to Bernie, everyone was like, "Oh, it's whatever." It's like, it's like it's a shock thing. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the Democratic voters. It was inconceivable that this woman would lose Michigan, except to like Debbie Dingell or whatever, who was like, "I don't know, I'm a little worried about this."
Yeah,
But,
she
I
did
mean,
see it coming.
that's just what to me is like this is the problem with our media, the way that we venerate the.
Yeah, so their point is essentially my point. And of course, I agree with Crystal and to a lesser extent, Sagar sometimes. They're basically saying that Hillary is a loser. She lost to Donald Trump. She lost to Bernie in Michigan. Perhaps if Bernie had been allowed to be the Democratic nominee in 2016, he would have beaten Trump because the people in Michigan actually want these issues addressed. They don't want to be told to sit down and shut up and not ask for Medicare for all, not ask for anything meaningful to improve their lives. They don't want to live in a corporate hellscape of more and more precarity for the working class and the mass of people and more and more wealth inequality. People see that. They see that the system is corrupted by huge corporate contributions. In this case, they saw that AIPAC donated, tens of millions of dollars. Tech oligarchs, I think, was the other $30 million that came in against Abdul Sayed, and they said that they don't like that. People don't like the corporate takeover of our society, and they voted for Bernie. They voted for Abdul Sayed. Now, you may not like that, and you may think that, okay, well, Abdul needs to appeal to right-wing but moderate Republicans in order to win. That's not actually the case. Abdul Sayed needs to get the Democratic Socialists, Social Democrats, and liberal wing of the Democratic Party to come out and vote for him. That is a majority coalition. It's a winning coalition. And now we're going to actually have a test of whether that coalition can actually win. Do the liberals in the Democratic Party abandon this coalition? That will be the way that we lose. And your admonition, Hillary, is a good way for them to potentially lose. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, the idea of Hillary Clinton telling everybody, hey, don't be so socialist. The Republicans are going to call us communists. The Republicans are going to run ads saying we're communist. That's what they're going to do anyway. We need to stand for something, right? People like it when you stand for a proposition that you are going to make their lives better, and they believe that you have a plan to do it. And then they get on board, and then they vote for you. This notion that we can stand for nothing and do nothing and say that, well, we're not socialist and we're not fascist, therefore you should vote for us. People are over that. People on the right wing are voting for fascists. We need to give them an alternative that will actually make their lives better. Thanks for watching.